Hey guys, after coaching people of all sorts of ranks, I've been seeing common mistakes popping back up on a lot of these heroes. So I wanted to share some of these mistakes and show you guys how to correct them and why I consider these mistakes. So with Imperius, let's get right into it. If you happen to be going Q build, or really in any build, it's important to do the Q combo correctly. Generally what I'll see with the Q combo is people will throw out their Q, they'll apply their E, they'll get an auto attack, a W, an auto attack, and an auto attack. And that's perfectly fine because it gets the longest duration of your slow, but unfortunately it doesn't synergize very well with a lot of the talents in Q build, and even in an auto attack build, more damage up front usually ends up being a more beneficial fight. So I want to talk about how to do this combo correctly. The first thing you want to understand is that if I toggle cooldowns, your W has almost no cast time. You can cast all of your abilities while your W is being fired off at about the same time. However, your Q has a long cooldown, so if you fire off your Q, you won't be able to fire off your W until well after the stun is ended, and in many cases, that's going to be the time that the enemies will use their escape. So if you're playing against an ETC, for example, and I use my Q first, he might bump me back before my W cast goes off, or he might slide away before the W cast goes off. A Genji might dash away. So many people have their abilities to get away, which is why it's important to fire off your W first and then your Q and stun them before your W even lands. If you're fast with the combo, you can actually stun before the W lands, so you don't miss out on part of the slow. If you can see that this slow lasts for 3 seconds, your stun lasts for 1 second, so we want to make sure that that stun or that slow lasts as long as possible, and you can actually have your W land about 0.3 seconds after your stun lands, which makes it to where this slow will still last 2.3 seconds, and that is enough to still land those 2 to 3 basic attacks afterwards, which means that your combo should still do about the same amount of damage, if not more, because you're breaking a larger brand in the initial combo. So it should look something like this. Breaks this, they're still slowed, and that is the full combo, doing just a tad bit more damage than the previous combo, as well as it's going to synergize better with the other talents. So let's talk about these other talents. If you happen to be going Q build, you can actually abuse this particular combo to get multiple stuns off, because this will reduce the cooldown of your stun by 1.25 seconds for each Valorous brand on the target, and it should say targets, because if you're on 2 different targets, you can lower the cooldown to about a second. So if you look at what this combo looks like done correctly on 2 targets, watch the cooldown of my Q when I turn off toggle cooldowns. I go with a WQ, I go with an E, I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to go with another Q, then I'm going to break this, and I'm going to get the 2 stuns, and guess what? My combo's back off cooldown again, and I can do it one more time, breaking those. That combo right there, instead of immediately breaking the brands, going for the second combo and then breaking the brands, allows you to get 3 stuns in a row on 2 different targets, completely stun locking them, well, not completely, but very close, effectively stun locking them, applying way more damage and way more CC for your team without really losing out on anything. And so this is a great way to completely destroy 2 people by just doing the combo correctly and not breaking the brands the first time. Not to mention that the extra drop damage is rather significant. At level 8, for example, if I throw in my Q and combo, I'm dropping them down at 450 damage before even landing an auto attack, and then I can follow up with another combo, and I've got a 2-second cooldown, and then I can follow up with another combo, and then I've got a 2-second cooldown, and then once again I've got another one, and this particular one will have the longest cooldown. So taking this level 1 and doing the combo correctly can add a ridiculous amount of CC to your team fights, as well as a boatload of damage, which is why learning this combo correctly is extraordinarily important. Now, if you're not going Q build, or if you are going Q build, understanding when to fight is extremely important. So let's say if I refresh forts, a lot of your damage and healing comes from landing as much value off of Valorous brand. I generally recommend people do an in and out playstyle when they're fighting in the 1v1, which means that you try to land all of your abilities at once. You go for all of them, you get a bunch of damage off, and you can see that I can quickly drop an ETC even without taking Burn the Impure. I did 80% of ETC's health in a single short fight, because I'm only fighting when I have my abilities. So a lot of times I'll see people, they'll just sit and auto attack for a while. What they don't realize is that Imperius's auto attack speed is very slow, and his auto attack damage is not very high. If I didn't already have ETC low and this wasn't an ETC bot, ETC would be winning in this trade, and most solo laners can win in the trade if you continue fighting for long periods of time. Generally, it's best to take a step back on Imperius and go in only when you have your abilities ready. The next thing is that your E will heal more if it hits a hero. You can see that when it's hitting a hero, it's healing for 27, but when it hits minions, it's only healing for 14. And do you see how during that entire fight, or that entire E, it only hit ETC once? So that leads me to the second mistake that I see very often on Imperius, which is that people are fighting within the enemy's wave and not their own wave. So if you find yourself fighting people like in ETC and he's fighting in his wave, you want to wait until he tries to go into your wave before you start fighting, because you don't want your E to hit minions. You only want it to hit heroes. So what you'll do instead is you'll wait until a couple of the minions have died, and then you'll try to take these fights while he's actually near you, and you can see the healing is quite a bit higher. Not only are you applying more marks and breaking more marks with your Valorous brand, but you're getting that double healing off of your Molten Armor, and your Molten Armor is going to be hitting heroes more often, so it's going to be doing more damage as well. So that's the greatest part about this, is you're going to be doing way more damage in the fights outside of waves than you will be doing in a wave, where that damage is split and you're not applying as many marks, as well as you're getting less healing. So that's the big thing, is that people need to fight outside of waves. The last thing that I see way too commonly on Imperius is when they're trying to escape, they often just use their spear to escape, and that's about it. The problem is that your spear doesn't actually get you that far. You can see the distance traveled is really about, I don't know, what you could travel in about a second of time anyways, and it takes, I would say, maybe a third of a second through its animation to get through, so you're really not moving that much further than you normally could. What I prefer people to do instead is move in a way that the people who are chasing you can't move. If you're going against an ETC, and he doesn't take the talent where he can slide over structures, instead of just using your Q like this, use your Q over things. That way, he needs to move all the way around. Look at how much he needs to move around to get here. If he's here and he right clicks, look at how much further he has to move than if you just jump over. Same thing right here. Let's say that you're here and we've got the ETC who's body blocking here. This means that you would actually have to move from here all the way over here to get around this ETC to leave. This is a lot of travel time that you're going to be taking a lot of damage, when in reality, you can jump over this and leave. And now ETC that's stuck down here won't be able to interrupt you as you mount up and leave. So using your Q to jump over things, you can jump over just about anything. It just needs to hit up at the end of that particular spear. So you can see where the spear tip is. On the end of the spear, on the other end of the spearhead, is where you can jump. So any point, as long as the end of the spearhead is not there, you can jump over it. So in this particular case, you can see the end of the spearhead is on the other side of the trees, so you can jump through the trees at that point. And same thing right here. The end of the spearhead, you can see right at the edge of the trees, it'll allow you to jump over. You won't be able to jump over in an area like this because you can see the end of the spearhead does not actually reach it, so you won't be able to jump over it. So those are the walls you can jump over and the walls you can't jump over, and that's something that I see way too often. I see Imperiuses who just Q and they're right next to a wall. I see this so often on like Towers of Doom, where there's that big wall up in top lane and they're being chased, and it's like, if you would just jump over the wall, you can mount up and all the enemies are stuck on this side of the wall, and you just leave this way, and then you can go run back around, grab your fountain, or just back, or do whatever you need to do. So escape over wall is incredibly important, and actually can be very valuable if you take the talent like press forward and you're on a map where you have to hold a point for a little bit. Let's say you're on Dragonshire. You know that point is up here, and there's waves down here. So say you grab press forward, you can actually grab your globe here and you can fight the opponent on this particular point, keeping your press forward triggered for a long period of time. And then maybe after you've bullied off the enemy for long enough with that extra 10 armor and a permanent regen globe going, then you can jump back down here, and again you can kind of see like what you need to do, and it's very easy to go back and forth on a map like Dragonshire. Is that the best combo? Maybe not, but I certainly think that if you are going to take press forward, understanding where you can jump over walls will definitely help you win on those particular maps. So those are the 4 major mistakes I see commonly on Imperius: the Q combo incorrectly, fighting within waves, fighting with abilities down, and also using your Q to escape incorrectly. So hopefully you guys can fix those mistakes and take your Imperius play to the next level. Thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos.